Hello and welcome to another episode of Inspired Women Gathering Show. This is a show that talks about all things from life, relationships, spirituality, business, and everything in between. Women are so inspiring, living through their stories, finding resilience, resourcefulness, and the tenacity and the powerful impact that we make in the world. I love connecting, having deep conversations, sharing with you the women I'm inspired by and so blessed to know. My name is Dixie Bennett. I'm your host. I'm a soulful women and wealth coach and healer, helping heart-centered entrepreneurial women heal their self-worth, embody their soul purpose, and create sustainable business with heart. I created this platform to highlight amazing women who I come across and connect with, and I hope you enjoy them as much as I do. And I'm so excited to introduce to you my beautiful guest, Beck Paschoal. And our topic today is Life is Art. Beck is an internationally collected mixed media painter. She has been living and creating artwork in Hawaii since 1998. Her passion is creating art that inspires love and gratitude, art that leads the viewer to an introspective experience. She currently shows and sells her artwork in the fine art galleries, Eclectic Image Gallery in Sedona, Arizona, and Enchantress Gallery in Wailea, Hawaii. She mostly paints with an impressionistic style using thick paint applied with a pallet knife so that it lifts off the canvas, becoming sculptural. She loves the no rules approach to artwork. It's a rewarding platform for free expression. Most of her paintings are purely imagination or a hybrid of a real location while letting the imagination go wild to fill in the story. With over 20 years in the art business, her roles have been multifaceted. Some of her favorite positions have been gallery owner, sales trainer, art consultant, and artist. When not using her hands to create, she is a busy mom and wife, married over 18 years, and has 3 sons. Beck is inspired by all things nature, people, fashion, travel, and love. So thank you so much, Beck, for being here with us today. So grateful.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor, truly.
Thank you. So I just want to mention a little bit about Beck. I walked into her gallery in Hawaii about 6 or 7 years ago. I can't remember the exact year. And I am delighted to introduce everyone to her. I love her art. You can see one of her pieces in the background there, and we're going to talk about it. But I just fell in love with her. I fell in love with her gallery. I fell in love with her energy, and we talked for quite a while, and I just always felt a deep connection. And I still have some of my favorite pieces. I actually have them on my backdrop of my computer. And I've been following her, and we've stayed connected ever since. So I'm deeply grateful to her insights and to her perspective, especially the business. So let's get right into things. And I'd love for you, Beck, just to share a little bit about your story, because you have a really fascinating story about how you came to be, especially in Hawaii, and as a gallery owner, artist, and all these good things. So I'll let you take it from there.
Well, the honor is reciprocated, and to know you and to be inspired by you just really helps me and encourages me to encourage others. So, you know, you are one of those special people along the journey that I've gotten to meet that are part of the tribe, you know, part of those who really get the most reward out of encouraging others to get introspective, whether it be through creative venues, through their business or their personal lives or their relationships. And so I came to Hawaii. I was solicited by my parents who were pursuing a second career in the fine art world, pursuing their passions. And they raised me to have that entrepreneurial kind of perspective in life. They always were go-getters and materialize their ideas, which is key. And so they knew I was young and probably up to no good living in Los Angeles. And so they pulled me out to the Big Island to help them with their first gallery they started in Kona. And they soon ditched me in Kona and left the island and moved to Sedona, Arizona. Ditched me in a beautiful place. But you know, they were having their first grandchild, so it was best for them to be back on the mainland. So they were in a point of travel to be more connected. And you know, they were young. They thought they were retiring early in their 40s, but pursuing their second career has been amazing for them. And they're very well collected themselves, and they still inspire me today. So they asked me to help them with this tiny little gallery, which didn't have a lot of rules for storefront hours, which was a blessing compared to a lot of the places of big shopping centers.
Mm-hmm.
And soon their household right away after they asked me to come out and spend a few years. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing out here? And they blessed me with a unique opportunity to take over their tiny little gallery as owner-operator. And I did, and that's when I infused my own paintings into the mix of things in addition to their fine art photographic works. And started learning a lot about selling right away, learning about rejection and overcoming rejection. It's like one of the number one things, just keep persevering on. And we'll come back around to that and into further discussions.
Mm-hmm.
But I met my husband there and soon realized I wasn't really ready to run and operate my own business. At that time, it was a 7-day a week, 12-day an hour operation, but I learned a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I shipped them their inventory, took that experience and carried it with me to work with other professionals in the area. Vera Kirkpatrick, shout out to Vera, who owns Genesis Gallery still for many years, probably over 25 years now, on the Big Island of Hawaii. And worked with her for a year, learned a lot from her. And Dolphin Galleries, who was iconic over 40 years in business. And it was when I worked for Dolphin Galleries at the shops at Wailea. I had moved to Maui from the Big Island, where my husband's from, because we knew we wanted to start a family. I saw this empty space across the way, and I, at that point, had honed in some pretty substantial sales skills and knew I had inventory available to me via my family and my own creations. And my husband and I talked about it, and we took a leap of faith. We were young,
Mm-hmm.
and we figured that we were young enough we could recover if we had to. And it's amazing the journey that we took from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I think too, I mean, I love, I mean, from California to Kona to the Big Island to Maui, right? That was kind of the journey.
Well, the Big Island is Kona.
Okay. Sorry.
But yeah, no worries. It's often mistaken.
I'm still.
No, I love the island.
Maui,
Islands have been, they're so inspiring,
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And even just the lifestyle. And that was the big thing when we were talking. I was so inspired by you because one of the things you shared was that you jumped into a 6-year lease with your gallery and you took the bullet. And
it was wild.
Yes. And I want you to talk a little bit about that because even just running the gallery from your parents' perspective, I know you had some challenges with it. And then coming to this bigger gallery in this bigger space. And
well, I knew I had a partner, my husband, to take on the hours and he had an entrepreneurial and does a spirit about him too. That is his family.
Mm-hmm.
And so we both knowing that we are getting married. We actually signed the lease right before we got married. We got married. We found out I was pregnant the day before we got married.
Wow.
So we did everything in the first year.
Yeah.
And it was huge. The numbers are incredible that you have to produce
Mm-hmm.
in order to stand amongst the big boys, the Louis Vuitton, the Gucci,
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany and Company. I'm really proud of what we did accomplish all those years and building the relationships and just the learning, and meeting the people. I mean, the people, they're family, and that is the biggest takeaway of all of this. And thankfully I've retained that, even though I don't own a gallery at this point in my life. Those people still I'm intertwined with, and island life is small, and the people who live here, not only full-time, but the part-timers that come from around the globe, come and they support the arts, and they really give to the community and really respect the community. It's a great atmosphere to be. The islands seem to, in general, there are other things we attract, but in general, we attract positivity and people that want to be kind with one another. And even if it makes you uncomfortable, that even like the mask situation, it's so controversial. And you see people getting really upset either way. And on the island, we're really proud of the way that, you know, our government has taken care of the people. Even though it's been, I mean, as an entrepreneur, it kills my heart to say that because I know what it's done to the economy. But in order to, you know, slow it down, hopefully this is when I actually think it's going to be a time of opportunity coming up for people who always wanted to open a business to do so. You know, because a lot of people are having to lose their lease right now. On the island in particular, we have 25% unemployment right now on island.
Oh, that's a lot. Well, I'm seeing it here too. Like I'm really, it is such an, I love that you said that there's lots of opportunity, especially for those for new businesses to come forward. I'm seeing that here where I live as well. There's a lot of businesses closing, but I'm seeing brand new businesses pop up, new names, new leases.
Well, it's about pivoting, and I thought about that a lot. And you know, and no matter what, through the years, I had my fine art gallery for 14 years, and in that high end, the shops at Wailea, very high end retail space, and you had to pivot through the years. We had the '08 dropout with the big balloon bursting, the big bubble burst. And then we had a little flux because the Canadian dollar popped up, and we have a huge Canadian population, and even more so after that. And then the Canadian dollar dropped, and so we had like we're a microeconomy on our island, and so we always had to pivot. I think that always made us stronger, and that's how I always look at. I always look at obstacles as digging deep, using your creativity, implementing those ideas, and it makes you stronger. You learn from it. I mean, what else is there to take from it? And that brings the positivity to it. You feel good about moving forward. I mean, that's what it's about.
I'd love for you to share some of your ideas, because I know you have a million ideas, and some of the things that you've done also to pivot. So even when you owned your gallery back to 2008, what were some of the things that you did within the gallery that helped to pivot and to support you to keep going?
Well, at that time, there was barely a smartphone, right? And so there weren't these beautiful social media platforms, which have been so helpful with many small businesses in our current pandemic situation. So we went to direct emailing campaigns, and that was still kind of a new thing to really load people up. And then some people were turned off by that too. But what we did mostly is shift the inventory. You have to follow the demand. We bring in more gift items. We bring in things that can hand carry, or promotions where you reach direct sales, you reach your clients directly and offer them special offers, because in general they want to support you and they want to leave their money with someone they know it is helping. They knew it really was helping my children. Like they get to know you through the years. And I think that's what was one of the beautiful takeaways about doing business in this location is the repeat visitors. There's so many repeat visitors, and they're like an extension. You see their kids grow up and their kids buy from them. Boy, does that make the wrinkles feel like they should stand out more. But it's inspiring. I painted wedding paintings for people's kids because they're getting married, and it's cool. It's so personal. Like, one of the things that's hard about business that it is personal, but then you have to know when to draw the line. Like when it does come to dollars and cents, you really got to straighten your mind and go into it and just say to yourself, it's dollars and cents, because everything's a negotiation in terms of your leases and things like that, or deals with your vendors. And you can't take it personally. Like if you have to ask we asked our vendors for discounts too. We did great. Like, see this glass ball next to me?
Yeah.
This is from the very prestigious Nero family.
Oh, beautiful.
And
Oh, beautiful. That's gorgeous.
Michael Nero helped build Pilchuck, a famous college of glass and deal Chihuly back in the 70s. And we were the #1 dealer with over 50 galleries nationwide for over 12 of those years. Unfortunately, we lost Michael, but his son Nick is carrying the torch with great dignity. And in fact, today I saw he posted he's making awards, and it reminded me of his father. So that's an honor of the Nero family. But, you know, building relationships where they would give us a discount so we can in turn give a deeper discount to the collectors. And in art, it's not a big markup. It's a tough gig. You know, it's not like a big box retail store where you get things made from the Orient. These are handmade. They cost a lot of money. Reading glass, you're talking precious metals, petroleum, to run the furnaces. It's not only just exhausting and physically demanding and mentally inspiring and exhausting, but it's a lot of money. So, you know, support your local arts because it's amazing what it does for people. And in business, don't be afraid to ask for that deal from your vendors, especially times like this. I mean, as an artist, you know, I definitely give the galleries a deal when needed to, especially, you know, unexpected circumstances, so that we can all, you know, share our gifts with others and, you know, just keep pushing forward.
Well, and a couple of the things that we talked about, well, in the past, and I love picking other business owners' brains on, like, I loved how we talked a lot about sales and marketing. And especially I find it too in the healing arts and with artists, like really creative people have a really hard time asking for the money, and also not recognizing about the relationships that need to be built. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about some of the things that, like, how you, well, just some of the things that you brought into your gallery to help showcase some of those artists and some of the techniques or some of the relationship building techniques that you use for that.
About asking for the money?
Yeah, asking for the money. But just
money in an art sale, like if we go straight to the sale of art itself, like say we're on the sales floor, you don't really have to ask for the money directly straight out most of the time if you're really, you know, if you're really just selling from the heart. And because what art, you know, in an art sale is getting people to really talk about, to really look within the piece. So many people have a hard time slowing down. I mean, look, you can't make a video clip over 30 seconds or no one will watch it. Even, you know, so like it's about getting people to slow their mind down enough to really look within a painting. I mean, while I'm talking, you're probably going to discover all these places behind my head. I wonder what's up top. There was some purpose there. But it's about engaging, you know, it's finding out what they like, and selling couples is a whole nother aspect of it all, because it's so hard to expect your spouse or anyone in your life for that matter to have like the same emotional response for something that you see visually. You know, like if you go to the movies, your friend might be like, that was amazing, and you might be like, oh gosh, I wish that. Or, you know, we're all going to respond in our own ways, and that's what's amazing about it. But I'm always tickled pink when anyone, you know, slows down enough to really get in there and put themselves there and go for a walk. But finding those things out is what's important. No matter what you're selling, finding out what people's needs are, finding out what they see in there. You know, instead of telling, you need to be asking more questions. You know, if you're buying a couch and you have a young family and they're like, it's a great deal, it's a good deal, do you like it? You know, they should be asking, like, is it important to you that the fabric cleans up easy? Do you have a lot of sleepovers? Do we need to pull out on that? You know, you got to put yourself in their shoes and think about their needs. Like, do you live in a really busy city? Well, then you might want a piece of art that's nature. We might want to slow it down. Do you live in a rural area? Do you want to liven it up and feel like you're going to a party every night? Let's get you in this dancing scene, you know, where you don't feel guilty about having a cocktail by yourself, you know, and you start engaging people and you know, and it's inspiring and people like it. You know, there's not a lot of places we go these days for people to actually engage you with that, you know, can talk to you and hold a conversation. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like being a speed dater, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Thank goodness I don't have to do that, but I
Yeah,
imagine
there's
that's
a
what
whole
it'd be.
different world out there. It's so
It
different
is like
even from 10
being
years
a
ago.
salesperson, right?
Yeah.
Sales in every aspect of our lives. I mentioned that before I came on, and that's another prime example that just naturally came afloat. And it is about relationships, like selling yourself and not saying like, hey, aren't I amazing? Look at me, I can do this, I can do that. But just having the confidence to speak your ideas and to be authentic. And, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that's when you're successful, because
Mm-hmm.
you should only pursue business that really inspire you personally to be doing it. You don't want to start a business and be like, oh, it's great money, but I don't think I could stand going there every day. I don't know. Like, if you have that feeling, then come up with a new idea. You know, even though my business that I've pursued in life for many years was very challenging, just because the costs were like such an amazing mountain to climb every month.
Mm-hmm.
I love doing it. Even in the hard years, I love doing it. You know, I have a great time not knowing who would walk in that front door each day,
Mm-hmm.
and making them laugh and getting them to talk about themselves and complimenting them, and
Mm-hmm.
finding things they're inspired by and matching them up with the right piece by doing so.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but a lot of people don't want to come across that boundary. It's uncomfortable. So it is about breaking your boundaries. And when any time I would train a salesperson, I'd have them look at it like it's a stage, because it really is a stage. Some days I may have not been that perky pants you saw that day. I may have had a really rough morning that you knew nothing about. But when I was there and I put my game face on in that retrospect, being authentic in the moment. And with that said, being in that business, on that sales floor, living in the moment was something that um, was a great takeaway for me too, because that it made it easier for me to pursue that lifestyle, to live in the moment, because I was on this fresh stage. It was me and the people
Mm-hmm.
in the art and any other associate that I may have brought in at the time or had been with. And I think it's a great way of life. We can't control what's not around us, within our reach. We can control our response and what we give. And you know, I'm far from perfect. So I'm sure there's a number of people who will tell you that. But there's many people who tell you that I have inspired with purpose. You know, I do it with
Mm-hmm.
purpose. Sometimes it happens accidentally, and I hope that my art does that when I'm not around. But I'm not on the planet, but you know, each day.
Yes, I
And
understand.
and so,
Well,
you know, it makes me feel good, you know, and each day I try to be a better human that way. And pivoting after closing my storefront, you know, I was still selling with other galleries at the time, and I still do, and it's my passion. It's what I do. I get to do a couple. Usually, I go and travel to shows. I had one canceled already this year, and we're not planning anything at the moment. And Wailea is closed, so since March. So I've been pivoting personally to create income, still doing my art, but doing things that I normally wouldn't have time for. You know, besides I've been very fortunate to have some collectors sign me up to do special order commissions, where they bring to the table their handful of images and ideas, and I whip it together.
I love that. Well, and just to kind of go back a little bit, I think, you know, you covered a lot of really great points. I mean, I've been in business for 10 years, and I love what you talked about, you know, seeing the sons and the children of some of the arts and collectors who are keeping the legacy alive.
Yeah.
And that's such a joy, I think, when you're following your passion and being of service, and you get to see the lineage and you get to see the families. And I think about a lot of my clients too, where I've seen, you know, the children, and the children are growing up into teenagehood, and then all of a sudden they're young adults. And I've had some clients come back on their own because their parents used to bring them to me for body work and energy work. And now they're coming back on their own accord as adults, as young adults, saying, yeah, I'm gonna go have some Dixie time.
Right. It
To
says a
generate
lot about
peace.
you.
Yeah, well, thank you. But I think it's so cool to be in a position and to stick with the business piece.
Yeah.
Um,
That's why, like, when I did shift gears, it was hard. It was an emotional
yeah.
transition because it was my identity and
Mhm.
my identity with my relationships with many people. But we're a small community. In fact, the gallery I was showing with um, on Maui, because I was showing with a smaller gallery upcountry, which was Enchantress Gallery, her first smaller location. She moved into my old space, ironically,
Mhm.
which is a real treat for me because my artwork hangs on the very walls of the space that I spent so much time in.
Mhm.
And so all the same people are coming back to the same shopping center and location. And so I get to see a lot of the same guests. And
Mhm.
um, I paint on Wednesday nights live, and I work a couple sales shifts a week
Mhm.
to be there. I love it. You know, I still love the sale, man. I told you before, even in the grocery store, people are looking at a coffee I know or love. I'm like, that's a really good one. You know, I
Mhm.
can't help myself. You know, my kids when they were small, they'd always go, "Mom, you have so much friends everywhere we go."
I
And
love that.
sometimes they were real friends, sometimes they're people I was just befriending just because, you know.
Yeah. Well, and I think sales is just part of the gift of conversation. You know, it really is. That's what it comes down to is it's the emotional conversation and connection, which then translates into more.
Right. Most definitely. Yeah, I was really proud of myself this week. I was thinking, okay, well, how am I going to create my next little dose of income coming this way? And I thought, you know, it's so fun just being like, I had a couple pop-up shows at the Five Palms this last month. The owner of this beautiful oceanfront restaurant just down the road from my house here invited a local artist to come in on the weekend, just two at a time, and present their works in their lobby while
Right.
people come to brunch. And so I was honored to do so. And while I was sitting there, I'm like, this is the gig, you know, to sit here oceanfront creating artwork with people. And so I thought, you know, I should do a paint with me class. And so
Mhm.
I took a look at the numbers of the menu and knew with the supplies what I would need. And so right when I was doing that, she messaged me to ask if I was ready for the next pop-ups. And I said, ironically, you called. So they actually messaged, so please give me a call. And I pitched my idea. She loved it. And no kidding you, 3 hours later, because I direct messaged about a half a dozen people, I booked out my show in 3 hours.
Awesome.
And so it was out of my comfort zone. I talked about doing it for years. I talked about doing it in Arizona when I go that I should do this. But, you know, it's like, oh, we're contacting the people, they say no, you know. And it's just, you put up these roadblocks in your mind which don't exist.
Mhm.
Okay, they're imaginary items. So you just have to shift your imagination and visualize what you do want it to be and go for it. So I was really pleased with myself. In fact, that was just in the last 24 hours. And within that time, after I got the results, I asked if we should book another date, you know, well, you know, because we had overflow coming back in. And so we booked a second time frame. So
Beautiful.
it's kind of a unique opportunity in Maui right now because we're closed for tourism. You
Mhm.
know, people won't be able to come until September at this point,
Mhm.
and the local businesses are surviving on our personal Kamaina economy, and so it brings money to the restaurant,
Mhm.
and it helps me also. So
Mhm.
it's a win-win for everyone, and it creates an amazing experience. I can't wait to share it. Hopefully I can get someone to take some good video or photos of us and our experience there.
Yeah, well, please, I hope you do, because share it on your social media. I mean, I've always followed you. I love seeing all your images and your travels and your what you're creating. So I can't wait to hear more about that.
It's really cool. One of the ladies said, I've never even painted a wall. Do you think I can handle this? And I'm like, yes.
Mhm.
And she's just going to feel amazing after. I mean, that's what I'm excited about is watching everyone in the end. There's going to be great camaraderie, you know, and it's the 3 hour tour and it'll be
Yeah. Oh, that sounds wonderful. Well, I hope it goes, I'm sure it'll go well for you. I
Yeah,
think
I'm sure it'll be a hit.
you have
Yeah.
the gift. Well, and that's being in purposeful alignment, I think, for your, how you're serving in the world and what you're doing. And I think when you're in alignment and you have really good relationships, so the people want to support you, and that's an important piece too. I think never be afraid to actually
Yeah, you
reach
have
out
to
to
be
people.
fearless. It's like it's harder and harder for people to let go of that. But actually, what's funny is I was on a message with a client earlier today, and we're talking about the hurricane, and
Mm-hmm.
I said, I just in my heart, I just don't feel like it's going to hit us. And I said, I don't know if that's me being, if I'm being extraordinarily fearless because of the recent circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, when things get hard, people sometimes do push through their fear. So I think there will be an upswing of entrepreneurship, people that would be like, what do you got to lose? Because they see people losing things.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention that you'll be able to negotiate incredible spaces before we know it,
Mm-hmm.
because the commercial real estate that's going to be sitting there,
Oh,
waiting.
huge. Well, it's everywhere and it's in everything, as we mentioned earlier. There's an opportunity for more entrepreneurship to pop up. There's past businesses who are going to need to shift the way that they're doing things, to downsize. Maybe there's opportunities for collaboration.
And
There's
don't be
so
afraid to
many.
ask your landlords for the deals.
Mhm.
When at oh wait, we were a little naive and we were embarrassed to ask for the discounts when a lot of people already asked for rent relief and they only allotted for so much.
Mhm.
And so there's no shame ever in asking for a deal, no matter what. Everything is negotiable, and everything.
Mhm.
That's what makes the
That's
world go round.
one of
And
my one of my sales mentors always told me, like, that was one of my biggest life lessons, I
mhm.
think, is that I had no idea that things were negotiable, that you could actually ask questions, or that you could
Some people
change
pay
things.
full price at the car dealerships.
Yeah, but he taught me everything. That was one of the biggest lessons he ever taught me, was that everything is negotiable. You can always ask questions, have conversations about it. And I remember my first vehicle, because I really listened, because I worked with a lot of top end salespeople, and I just listened to how they did deals. I was just like, wow, this is so interesting. I got to be the fly on the wall for a lot of possibility and opportunity learning. And then I just like, oh, I can do that. I can apply that. I didn't know you could ask for what you wanted.
Including not just purchasing an item, but contracts.
Contracts, yeah,
Everything's
absolutely.
negotiable. Make sure you're reading every line. Everything is negotiable.
Mm-hmm.
It's, a good deal is when everyone's just a little bit unhappy, but
Mm-hmm.
in general, it's a great deal. It's got
Mm-hmm.
to be a balance. And
Mm-hmm.
I think in any relationship, it's a negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
I'd make a joke to honeymooners sometimes. They would look at me like they had no idea. But I think people who do negotiate in life make for great partners and relationships too. Lawyers, people who put deals together, and
Mm-hmm.
big sales, realtors, people
Mm-hmm.
who are used to give and take, because that's that yin yang balance that you have to have that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I had a really cool conversation with one of my clients this morning. Um, they're having their house painted, and her and her husband have been accountants, and they've always had an in-home business, so they just moved houses, and now they're having painters come in. And so she was all about business on the inside of effective referral, how to build your network, all that kind of stuff. And so she said it was kind of interesting, because I plopped the idea in, some of the tradespeople happened to be there, and I happened to walk by, and they were doing a whole bunch of deals. Like, they were both sharing resources and jobs and referring other people to them right in her furnace room. And she's like, that gave me so much satisfaction that I created that little micro experience over there. And I think that's the biggest thing about being in business. It's all about leveraging relationships, knowing the zone of genius that you have and that you offer, and then also looking for, how can I partner with other people to leverage their talents or leverage their ideas. And I think that's a big part of, well, what you and I had talked about too, about running a gallery. It's kind of the same thing as running a healing center. you know, you create the stage for people to come in and play, but unfortunately they often leave it up to you to do all the stage work, and they just want to show up and work. And you know, and it does take a lot of time and effort to build those relationships, and to you know,
having the appreciation for the
yeah,
stage too. Those
yeah.
walls and galleries cost a tremendous amount of money,
Mm-hmm.
and I respect that because I paid for walls before,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, some artists don't respect that, you know, their positioning, or if they need to bring in something fresh or to help
Mm-hmm.
participate to create sales by showing up and doing
Mm-hmm.
something live, or create promotions or offer promotions within their collections.
Mm-hmm.
And and you know, there's nurturing back and forth. You know, it's a relationship with each vendor, no matter what business,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's art gallery, boutique, um, you know, healing center. It's creating
Mm-hmm.
that. You have to create, again, you have to negotiate terms on what it's going to take for it to work for the two of you, because every business and every relationship is different that way.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has their own set of needs and requirements, and the best relationships, whether it be business or personal, are the ones where you put those needs and desires up front and
Mm-hmm.
communicate those outwardly.
I was looking through my notes, and I'm like, because I remembered when we talked about the walls, you had such a tidbit of information. You had a view about the walls. Do you remember what it was?
I think you laugh because I said, well, a lot of artists don't get it. They come in and they think the walls are free. You know,
Right.
they think that it's all taken care of already, and they just happen to have the art that would fit on that same wall. Where
Right.
there's a calculated expense to the wall. It's like
Right.
$12 a square foot of wall space it costs. These
Mm-hmm.
galleries all expenses in with their advertising costs, insurances, just to hang that piece on the wall until
Mm-hmm.
it's sold. So it's like paying the mortgage on a house while you're waiting to sell it. You know, there's a true
Mm-hmm.
cost involved. And you know, you spread that as an aggregate across the gallery, but you have to see long term who's producing and who's not,
Mm-hmm.
and that determines the space, how much they get, or their positioning within the gallery.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's a way to do it. Well, at least that's how I did it. Not everyone is that way. You know, I thought like I got my best value out of my money spent on my cost by doing that, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's totally being creative with with the stage, going back to the stage of however you're designing it and creating it for
And
the
keeping it
audience to come in.
in any business, you know, my husband and I still talk about one of the things that we loved is that every year we brought in 2 or 3 new talents to keep our repeat collectors excited about seeing something new and fresh. Like one that's kind of a smaller item, like 3-dimensional item, and newer things within each collection that we still carried throughout the years long term,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to keep it fresh and exciting. I think one of the worst things that business owners do, they just stay stagnant. They just keep it the same. You know, I even like to rearrange stuff regularly just to like
Mm-hmm.
keep the mojo going, and you know,
Yes, I love the
stay
mojo.
connected with each piece so that you yourself feel further connected with each item that you're sharing. And that would be true whether it's each home that you're sharing. Spend time in there. If it's for sale, it's empty, go in there. You know, like take a look at it. Tell people, I love this about it. You'll notice things about it. You know, ask the sellers if it's okay if you spend 3 nights in it, or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just to get a vibe for the place, if that works for you. You know, I'm just saying, you know, it's good to personally connect people when you're trying to sell, and that's, you know, that's the
Mm-hmm.
whole reason you're doing it, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, one of the things that came to mind, like especially talking of, well, just from our past conversations as well, because like I'm personally one of those entrepreneurs that I'm willing to risk anything and everything to move, to keep moving my business forward, to keep moving me forward. And you know, I haven't had to sell my house, but there's been moments where it's just kind of like I would like to, you know, where can I pull the money from to keep things going? And even just a couple of things that you said earlier about the, you know, just every month you were starting from zero, and then you had to climb that mountain every single month. And there's a lot of times where I feel that too. But I love climbing it, and I love seeing how everything comes together. And I always marvel, because I think that's a big part to know when you're on track for things, is to trust that everything always comes together month on month. But where does that drive come from? Like, where do you think it comes from for you? How does it?
I think it was an inherent trait from my parents. My father was a nuclear engineer, and he sought out personal contracts with big corporations, and he'd go through outages where he'd have to work 7 days a week for 4 or 5 weeks in a row, very long hours, and he would commute a couple hours from North County, San Diego to Carson, or like that's when he worked at the cogeneration plants. But even when he did nuclear power at like San Onofre, they do outages where they run systems and things. So anyways, I saw him work very hard, but he loved what he did. You know, he's very passionate about what he did, and I don't know where. I think that's where the drive, maybe. I don't know. That's my best guesstimate. That's where I just saw my parents be driven by passion. You know, they're still driven by passion. They still do what they love. You know, they go out and they photograph national parks and go on trips together, and they share those experiences through their artwork. And you know, I've never been maybe it's that little. I'm not sure where it comes from, but thank you for asking. I'll have to chew on that further. But I did. And I always had faith in it, because it did so. Anytime I would just decide to put my best foot forward and work hard towards something, it usually pans out in some way, you know. And but sometimes there's circumstances that you can't control, you know, and that's when you just have to pivot and shift, you know. Like when you talk about sacrificing, I mentioned that I gave up real estate. That we were very good as young entrepreneurs. We invested in the stock market, and then 08 hit, we lost our rear, and we had just barely less than a month's worth of rent in the bank. I'm sorry, in our accounts for the stock market, our market accounts. Yeah. And so we pulled that because we felt like we had to. So then we didn't have any of that. But we were very good about not overspending. We bought used cars. Our biggest expenses were the properties that we bought, but you get tax benefits on those, and there are things that were beneficial, and they're great long-term investments. But we ended up having to dump a couple of properties that were income producing because we just couldn't afford the maintenance on them at that point, and we had to use the income we had to try to keep the business afloat. And I was willing to sacrifice things that the business allowed me to acquire to keep the business alive. And it came down to almost losing our personal home. Thankfully, we didn't have to in the end, and we're still in our long-term home that we've had for about 15 years. But yeah, that's you know, you just have stuff is stuff to me. I like I said, I just loved doing it, and I still do. I love the connection with people, and I wasn't willing to give that up. And I felt like I was fighting for it for the other artists, even though some artists I did hurt at the end if I couldn't pay them out, because when the business shut down, all the accounts shut down. It was done. And that's what happens when a business closes. And, you know, we all know that when we go into business, we're taking a risk at some level. And that's that risk we take. And for many years, we've produced for many people, and that was amazingly rewarding. Besides the personal relationships, it felt good to help the salespeople make money, the artists, the vendors make money, the trickle effect. You know, we really felt like we were giving in that way too, besides trying to emotionally give not only to our clients, but our employees and the people that we speak with.
Yeah, powerful. Thank you so much for that.
But it was worth the risk. You have to decide where you draw the line, you know, on what you're willing to. But it's great, you know. I feel stronger than ever. I have more family time. I'm still doing my own business with my artwork and pivoting that. I'm pursuing also a gift collection that's unique, and these events that are income producing that I don't necessarily have the time for, didn't have the time for while I was doing more events within the fine art galleries. And I still have inventory with them. Sedona is still open. If anyone's in Arizona, go up to Sedona and check out Eclectic Image Gallery at the shops. And then they'll be open here at the shops in Wailea here in September. So as soon as the gates open up where there's enough foot traffic. The problem with the small businesses here is not that they want to be disrespectful to the local community, which it does feel that way for some people. It's just like the electric bill, seriously, is $2,000 a month just for like that space.
Wow.
Just for the electric bill. So for these stores to stay open, they need to really produce some income. And so a lot of the businesses here on Maui and throughout the Hawaiian Islands are on a pause, just waiting till we can put traffic back in safely.
Yeah.
Safely.
For sure.
We know that it's going to be a rough take at it, but it's going to happen eventually.
Well, I've had the pleasure of visiting your parents' gallery in Sedona as well, and yeah, it's so cool to just to see. Well, it is that ripple effect, right? Is the relationships that we cultivate and create, especially as business owners and locally. So tell me a little bit more about how you thread in the energy of Aloha into your life.
I just try to get people to be present. Like with my paintings is how I'm doing that mostly now. I paint for this gallery only Hawaiiana. And so I try to create imaginative places that let your mind wander, like the most beautiful gardens with the waterfall and a little pathway to walk over, and the stars and the moon are so radiant here. And to get people to look at these pieces and slow down, breathe deep, get introspective, and then be present. So many of my friends and family live in very busy areas where they're pursuing their passions, but it's in a very busy environment. And I think it's harder for people to feel the feeling of love and aloha that people in the islands can more easily be receptive to, because we're slower here. It's easier to get into that. You're in nature, you're at nature. And so I try to create artwork that brings that feeling of that nature of the island back with them. But aloha is just about being kind and respectful. Respect is so big in the islands. If you honk your horn, be careful in Hawaii. It's disrespectful to honk your horn unless it's really necessary.
Right.
And just talking too loud in a restaurant, don't do it. There's things living in the islands that it's just really about being aware of your surroundings and being respectful. And I hope that I help people be aware of that. Not those exact words, but through my artwork, feel that beautiful feeling of people being kind and genuine and saying hello. Even just greeting people on the streets. I mean, don't be afraid, people, to say hello to people on the streets. It breaks my heart that I start my day with purpose to say hello. Sometimes it just makes me laugh, because I find humor in most things. But some people can't even look at you, and I feel so bad for them. They can't even, like, there's no one else around. They've got nothing to risk. Hello, good morning, aloha, and some people say that, and some people are just so grateful. And I think most people who come here, they love that we're kind and genuine,
Inclusive.
and that we are secure enough in our own selves to give our positivity to everyone else. And I think that's what that projects. I think we're all attracted to people who are confident and secure in themselves, and I think that when you're here and you feel that, it ignites that within you, because when you go home, you give that for a little while, it wears off,
Yeah.
But, you know, that's when you got to pull it from within. So
Yeah.
I think coming to the islands, that's the sharing of aloha. I think the
Mm-hmm.
community gives that in a big way. And community is key here. We have such an amazing community. It's what I love most about living on this
Mm-hmm.
precious island that I'm so grateful to be here for.
I always find it interesting. I can always tell when people just came back from the islands because they sign all their emails, hello, aloha, mahalo. And then that lasts for about a week. And then they go back to their normal responses.
I know. I love saying it because it reminds people. However, not being Hawaiian, I hope not to be offensive to anyone. I am married to a Hawaiian local boy. My children are Hawaiian and local, but I'm still a transplant, but I'm a very respectful one, so I'm well accepted because of that. But yeah, it is just about being kind and respectful. Like I said, even talking too loud. Like if you're dining in a fine restaurant, this goes true anywhere, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be a loud talker so loud that people can't have their own conversation or enjoy themselves next to you. It's just rude. So again, that's just about being personal awareness.
Yeah,
It's
I love
such simple things,
that.
but practicing kindness, you know, and being aware and giving love and kindness.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do it, man.
So we're just about wrapping up our time here. So what would you say is give us some examples of even just your own self-care routines? Like what do you do to take care of yourself, to keep your cup full and your positivity full?
Wow. Well, I love my garden, although you might not think so by the looks of it. It's very dry right now. We're supposed to have a hurricane this weekend, so hopefully she'll get beautifully saturated.
I hope you get the rain and not the destruction.
I'm hoping that Madam Pele steps up. Usually Kilauea does a great job at breaking up our storms from that way.
Mm-hmm.
We shall see.
Cool.
But I actually love to create. I know it sounds corny. I'm not just saying it to pitch, but I'm looking across the room, and thankfully you don't see it, but there's stacks of canvases I prime the backdrops of. I have my studios across the way here, and I have everything from glass. I love to create. It's really my passion. I love the ocean. I love to travel, but we can't go anywhere as American citizens, or not that I want to go anywhere right now.
Right.
Having this time at home has been great for me. I have been busy with commissions. I just wrapped up my last big commission piece. So if anyone's ready for a biggie, I'm ready for you. But I've pursued other mixed medias for Sedona's collection. So I'm a box of ideas. So I really, I'm always pushing that creativity. And with a family my size, you know, we have 3 boys all together. Our oldest, Kekoa, he's out of the house now. But they keep me busy too. You know, I've been quite the chef since things have slowed down, cooking nearly every meal.
Awesome.
A couple meals out a week. The last, I'd say 6 weeks, we've done like a couple of takeouts just to support local business.
Right.
But I love cooking. I love gardening. And because those are all creative too. You know, I'm not a recipe girl. I just love throwing it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been eating plant-based for 3 years, come August.
Awesome.
And I feel great. I love it. I used to love meat, you know, and never really thought I would go this direction. I had a health scare, so it kind of pushed me into doing that, and so I just stuck with it. And I recommend it if anyone wants to give it a try. Even going a couple meals a week, more plant-based, you'll see that you'll feel less inflammation.
It's amazing. I've gone in and out of it where I went vegan, more vegetarian, actually not vegan, but definitely tried the vegetarian route, leaning on the vegan side. And I still love fish. I still love different parts. I'm not eating as much heavy red meats as I used to. But it's definitely a lifestyle, and it's opened me up in a really big way of just acknowledging and appreciating, you know, just knowing what you're intaking for the day. And it makes a world of difference in my thought process, you know, it makes a world of difference on all levels.
Yeah, I mean, I used to just love a prime rib. you know.
Right. Oh yeah.
And so,
I grew up on a cattle farm. Like I grew up eating beef, and I would eat steak every week. You know, like that was my
your
favorite food.
your palate changes just like with
Mhm.
anything, you know. And
Yeah.
so I like once in a while, not always, but sometimes I like something that has the texture of a meat, like, you know, some of the more popular brand
Mm-hmm.
alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
But most often I just like textures, you know, and I can still make awesome tacos using alternative
Mm-hmm.
items, and
Mm-hmm.
I love spice, and so it really works for me, and it feels great. Not as fun to dine out with sometimes, but
Yeah.
a lot of the restaurants are finally wising up because there's a lot of people that are going that way just to try to help prolong and
Mm-hmm.
clean things up a little bit.
I
But
would say even in the last, well, really the last 5 years, I've seen a big change. Like even where I live, my
yeah,
city here in Calgary, there wasn't really a lot of vegetarian, vegan. Um,
I
uh,
was thrilled at Disneyland. I was so grateful we went to Disneyland in December, and they had incredible vegan options. And so
awesome.
I was thrilled, and so hopefully that trends on. You know, it's
It is. It's definitely showing up. There's more and more restaurants that are coming online, you know, that are supporting more vegetarian, plant-based foods,
so
and
that's why I need to work in the garden more.
yeah,
Move it back to the garden. And
yeah.
I love to paddleboard. However, it's been a little while. I need to get back in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just love it. It's like being a pirate out there. You just feel like it's you, and it's an incredible workout. It's definitely something that is on my short list to get back into,
Yeah,
and
it's a
it's an
beautiful place.
incredible workout too.
Yeah. Oh,
But
amazing.
it's like you stare right into the water. It looks like you're snorkeling. It's amazing. And the
Mm-hmm.
turtles pop their heads out.
I know.
They're curious. They see you from far away.
Yeah, I love turtle watching in Hawaii. It's probably one of my favorite things. I loved watching their heads pop up and seeing
The
them on
little
the beach and connecting with them. Yeah, such a
yeah.
magical place. Oh,
Well, thank you for having me, Dixie. I
thank you.
appreciate you, and I'm thrilled that you're inspiring so many, and it inspires me more to pursue my own personal passions,
Mhm.
and I really appreciate
Thank
that.
you. Well, you inspire me by living out your creativity, and I love watching all the things that you're doing and creating out there. So thank you as well. So I'm going to post a link for her in the show notes, where you can connect with Beck. And I'm just grabbing that for you here. Where did I put it? Oh, yes. So Beck Paschoal. Paschoal. I'm getting it. It's an
Yes,
interesting name. Beckpaschoal.art is her website, and you can follow her. She's also in social media, and I adore you, and I'm just so grateful that I met you and have stayed, you know, in our own way of connection over the last few years, and appreciate the conversations and connections. So
I look forward to our future, and I don't know. I kind of visualize the retreat,
awesome. I like that.
right? I think if anyone thinks that Dixie and I should host a retreat together, please leave it in the comments, and
I love it. Well, we'll definitely connect. I love that. Great idea. I'm coming back to Maui. I keep saying, you know, it's been about 6 or 7 years since I've been there, and I'm like, I wanted to move there. I was ready when I came home. I'm like, that's it. I'm selling everything. I'm moving to Maui, and I was looking at lease space. Like I was so ready. I was looking at homes. I was looking at rental properties.
it does
Um,
work for you.
Such a beautiful, beautiful place. Yeah. So I'll put that on my list of experiences.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Beck.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right.